grab your cup. We're living right now in a world, and maybe every generation feels that way, but right now I feel like we're living in a world that is so uncertain. There's a lot going on. When you look at the Middle East, when you look at our political landscape, when you look at the price of food and how in some areas basic things are so expensive, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear, I think, for people. And maybe that's an extension of the pandemic. There was a lot of fear generated during the pandemic. And then I know I have clients who never really overcame that until we started to work together. So fear and uncertainty is part of the world and the life that we live in, no doubt, right? Fear, here's a perspective I want you to consider about fear. Fear is just feedback telling you something to pay attention to. Most of the time, it's not necessarily danger. Like when you have a toddler and they're running up to a hot stove, that's danger. If they're going to touch the stove, they're going to get burned. Most of the time, we're experiencing fear, and it's not that we're in imminent danger, but it's giving us feedback about something for us to pay attention to or to think about, and it's often giving us feedback based on the past. So it's an automatic response because something feels familiar in our body from something we experienced before. And because of that familiarity, right away, there's fear. That's the response that we're having. So a way that you can relate to fear is to actually stop and look at it. Another thing that people do is try to avoid it. Oh, I'm afraid, let me get away from this. And that's a child response to fear, right? Like, let me run away from the hot stove. But if you can actually not run away from it, but acknowledge it, there's the fear. Here's where I feel it in my body. My stomach gets really clenched, or maybe I'm feeling like my heart racing. So my body is telling me something. Pay attention to it and lean into it rather than run away from it. That's one of the first things for any emotions that we don't want to feel, is they're not going to kill us. It's an emotion, but lean into it. When we experienced fear very young and didn't get really good tools on how to process it, we just had fear. That can become one of the main reasons for chronic anxiety as an adult. It's just a generalized fearful state of being because we never learned how to lean into the fear, process it, understand it, acknowledge it, really look at what is it telling me, and then move through it. So anxiety is just being afraid of everything, really, right? Like just having anxiety. And if you stop and look, a lot of my clients all the time say, I don't really have something to be anxious about, or I'm anxious about everything. Everything causes me anxiety. That's a response to fear that has, somebody's never learned how to respond to fear. Let me say it that way. So in a world where there is a lot of uncertainty, the only place to create certainty is within yourself. That is the only place that you can be 100% certain of what you want to create, how you want to think. You may not have that certainty now within yourself, but if you want to live in certainty, you've got to create it within you. It's not going to be out in the world. We don't live in a world that is certain. We live in a world that's very uncertain. So creating certainty within yourself is the place to get grounded, is the place to really shift out of anxiety all the time. It's the place to get comfortable knowing that fear is not going to kill you. It's giving you feedback, and what do you want to do with that feedback? And if you have the certainty within yourself, you know that, okay, that feedback is actually here to help me. It's actually here to give me information that I can now take action on if I need to, or look at, reframe it, whatever it is. So certainty only comes within ourselves. The work that I do with clients has a lot of rewiring how we think, reframing the experiences that we've had, changing the story and the interpretation. So that's all up in here. We do a lot of nervous system regulation going into the body, somatic work, which you have to do. You can't just rewire up here and not change what's happening in the body, because the experience of what's here resides in the body. The nervous system resides in the body. Right now, this weekend is the closing of enrollment for a 12-week program called Set Yourself Free. Set Yourself Free is like a smaller version of my main, bigger, comprehensive, intensive Return to You. That's a bigger, longer partnership together. Set Yourself Free is a smaller version of that, and the enrollment is closing this weekend. If you want to set yourself free from these patterns that keep you stuck in anxiety, or any other patterns in your life that are showing up in your relationships, always being with people who are toxic for you. There's lots of ways that patterns show up. You might have patterns in your body, health symptoms that keep coming back no matter what you do. Set Yourself Free is a great opportunity to do that, and we're closing enrollment this weekend. So definitely reach out to me, put free in the comments. I'm happy to talk to you about that. We're also happy to talk to you about the deeper, bigger partnership of Return to You, which has a lot longer work together. Just depends on what's right for you and where you're at, right? But creating certainty in your life, certainty to know that I'm going to choose the best partnerships, certainty in knowing I can handle conflict, certainty in knowing that you can be okay regardless of what's going on in the world. Okay? Put freedom in the comments. We would love to talk to you. Have a great day.